Yo, sit yo stankin' ass down and tune into the E.I.T.H.R podcast. My daddy D-Cal is talking. Bitch.
Happy Monday to everybody. It's your boy D-Cal here hosting the E.I.T.H.R podcast out of the GNS Inc. home studios here in Sacramento, California. Hope everybody had an awesome weekend. Hope everybody had a very, very memorable Father's Day. And happy belated Juneteenth to everybody. Listen, we're at the start of another week, so make sure you guys give yourselves a round of applause. Making it, you get that shit. You get that shit. Congratulations. Good job. Good job. Good job. So I just want to make sure I go ahead and give credit where credit is due. I tend to like to start the podcast off with a positive, encouraging message for everybody. An encouraging message for today is to be courteous while you guys are on the road. This past weekend, I've seen a lot of people and a lot of accidents, and I can almost guarantee you that most of these accidents were probably people who just wasn't paying attention. There were probably accidents with people who just wasn't being courteous when it came to merging. When people using their signals or failing to use their signal. So please be courteous to other people on the road, because listen, you don't know where somebody's on their way to. You don't know where somebody's on their way from. So just be curious. I know everybody is in a rush to get into that line of cars that's also in a rush, and everybody thinks that half a second of you getting in front of that car it's going to make a big difference. It's not. It's not. Okay. Most of the traffic jams that I have noticed are people who are just inconsiderate and just have this mindset they got to get into a rush to get to that stop sign. And trust me, that stop sign ain't going nowhere. So just be a little courteous. That's all I want to say. Because like I said, just drive easy, because wherever you're trying to go, it ain't going nowhere. It will be there when you get there. 10 minutes later is better than not making it or not surviving. So just make sure of that. And you never know how other people are driving too. Like I said before, my mother used to tell me, when you're driving your car, you also have to drive everybody else's car. And I never understood that until actually you get behind the wheel and you realize other folks really don't know what they're doing, or they might not know what they're doing. So you have to anticipate when somebody else is doing it. And it's very difficult to anticipate somebody who isn't paying attention. So just make sure you guys, be on the lookout for that. So on the itinerary today, I got a few good things I want to talk about. A few elephants in the room that I kind of want to talk about with everybody. And so we're going to kind of get into it right now. This is the main thing, but it's definitely a big thing that I would like to talk about. And it's kind of something that I feel that a lot of us do. A lot of us do it even subconsciously. We don't even realize that we're doing it. And it causes a lot of frustration. So when it comes to sports, excuse me, when it comes to sports, people like to make this assumption about other people's money, salaries, players. NFL, for example, for a lot of the people who are not sports fans, people tend to think that a lot of these athletes make millions of dollars and they can just do all the things that they want to do, and we can't understand why they have the issues and the problems that they got. I would say 50-60% of that assumption is accurate and true. The other part of that is misunderstood. We tend to have this idea that a lot of their lifestyle is similar to our lifestyle as regular people. And it's not. I want you to imagine being an athlete at a young age. And you've been given and gifted all these tools to play a sport, regardless of what the sport may possibly be. And in high school, you gain this attention. And this high school attention grants you a scholarship to a college. Okay, whatever college you want to go to, whatever second option you may have, even the college that you hate the most, like a rival. Let's say they give you a full ride scholarship. You take the scholarship, you go there, you big fish in a small pond type of thing. And then you become this big fish in a big pond, because now is a whole new level of expectations that they put on you, so on and so forth. So you go do your thing, and you become this big, well-known collegiate player. A lot of you are following what I'm saying here. Then you get drafted. The lifestyle of that student athlete is different than the non-student athlete. I'm not going to say you get perks, but there are certain benefits that you will receive the non-athletic student possibly may. That's just life, right? That's just life. Fair, unfair, it's irrelevant, because that's just how it is. Then this college athlete becomes a professional player. Now, your whole life you've been playing for the next level. Each level you made whatever compensation you were able to make. Most of that compensation is zero, because you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to in high school because you're underage. You're not allowed to in college because it's a violation. Until now, you have an NIL, which stands for name, image, and likeness, where athletes are at least now able to make some type of compensation off their name, image, and likeness. And it's a new thing in college. So you're going to see a lot of colleges kind of abusing it because it hasn't been regulated just yet. But follow me. You make no money in college. You get to the pros. All of a sudden, you're given millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. And within these millions of dollars, a lot of us think how smart we would possibly be with this money. But in that world, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. Because in order to play their game, you have to live by their rules. Which means you have to look a certain way, image-wise, physical appearance. You have to maintain a certain status. So they put people around you to help manage your money, right? Keep in mind, you've been an athlete that whenever you wanted, you have always received. Whatever you wanted, you've always received. Now, some of us will call them spoiled. Some of us will call them entitled. But the bottom line is, whatever you want and you received, who would not want that lifestyle? Who would not want to be able to live like that queen or live like that king? So I want you to imagine several hundred to several thousand athletes who've had this experience. Some of them have people to keep them humble in their circle. Most of them come from poor backgrounds, poor neighborhood, poor household. So the first thing you do is you're going to splurge and buy all the things you've never had before. Human nature. It's human nature to do that. Keep in mind, when you get that extra money from your paycheck, whether it's bonus, whether it's overtime, Whatever it is, I want you to think, do you set that money aside? Do you put that money into a safe place? Do you reinvest that money into something that's going to help potentially make a profit? 99% of us, no, we don't. We take that extra money and we buy things we normally would not have bought. Why? Because you now have it. It's an impulse. You want to treat yourself. You feel as if you deserve it. Not saying you don't, but it's one of those things. I want to get myself something nice. And you now have the money for it. Same thing with the athlete. It's just on a larger scale amount of money. So instead of buying that shirt or that restaurant or that whatever the hell it may be, it's a Ferrari. It's a house for their parents. It's a Ferrari for their parents, their sister, and themselves. It's something you do for the people that you grew up with. You take care of your people. Why? Because you can. I don't want anyone saying, I would never do anything like that because of fill in the blank. Remember those memes? Would you stay in a house for 30 days, no internet, no food, no internet, no lights, no cell phone, no human contact for 30 days and get $10 million? And people are like, oh my God, I'll do it for 60. Oh God, first of all, the pandemic proved that was a lie. Shout out to Mari. Proved that was a lie. Because you were stuck at a house that had internet, that had lights, that had cell phone, that had food, that had water, with no human contact, and everybody wanted to rush the Capitol. So I don't want to hear it. Everybody wanted to talk about their rights. So we think they have the lifestyle we do. And that's because that's the world we are exposed to. We're not exposed to that world. Secondly, and this is one of the crucial things I want to get across, NFL, National Football League, is the only league of the four major sports in the United States: football, basketball, baseball, hockey. Football is the only sport where the money is not guaranteed. So if you sign a $200 million contract, there's a great chance out of that $200 million, you're only getting $3 million. I'm just painting a picture. Your first contract is going to probably be closer to like 60, 70 million. But you're only getting a base salary of a couple million, maybe a few $100,000. That's about it. Because everything else is incentive based. Okay? It's incentive based. Based on, in football again, if you receive this many yards at this point in the season, if you make this many tackles at this point of the season, if you score this many touchdowns at this point of the season, if you rush for this many yards, receive this many yards, this many interceptions, it's incentivized, which is good because it gives the players reason to play hard because you're giving them compensation for achieving goals. The bad part about it is it's a high contact sport and your money is very, very small compared to. So when you look at somebody's contract in football, the only money that really matters to the player is the guaranteed money, because that basically is, no matter what happens, that's the money that they're receiving. Everything else is based on the product that they do on the field. Every other sport, the money is guaranteed. So Klay Thompson can have another devastating, knock on wood, but his money is guaranteed to him. It sucks because he's not playing the sport that he loves. But in football, when you see a player, if that money isn't guaranteed, their lifestyle is very, very different. And the NFL markets their team, where the NBA markets their player. So it's a little bit of, even though it's a high contact sport in basketball as well, because of the jerking and twisting motion, the jumping and running and cutting of the body, a lot of ligaments, a lot of joints, a lot of muscle can get strained. Something gets sprained, and there's times where you can get a fracture. But in football, you have a 195-pound man running full speed, getting knocked the fuck out by a 250-pound man who he doesn't even see that man coming at him. He's getting blindsided, possibly blindsided. So when football players look a certain way, most of that is for image. Because again, the marketing is for the team. Very, very few players, unless you're elite, the player is marketed of that team. Because you have helmets, you have visors, you have masks, so you can't see the player's face. Everything that's mainly emulated is the back of the jersey where you have their football, their last name, and the football jersey. So I kind of wanted to help break down with people when someone's making a certain amount of money, that's not a guaranteed income, right? And again, a lot of that people on that side, they have a lifestyle that they have to maintain. Otherwise, it can damage the drive for people to want to do that sport. Give a shout out to some of the people that I know. I don't want to name drop because I don't want people thinking I'm name dropping. That do play professional sports, and I just had to get that off my chest. Be right back.
Yo, what up, folks? This is Rodney Farrell, the CEO of Farrell Development Group, and you're listening to the E.I.T.H.R podcast, hosted by E.I.T.H.R. Let's get it.
So that was very important to me to let people know about the salaries, because a lot of people kind of talk about players make so much money and what they should do with their money. And I remember when I was doing real estate, how I was one of these people about what you should do with your money until I got that money in my hands, and I did exactly everything that people said they shouldn't do or they wouldn't do, because there's an urge. You're gonna do it. Like I said, if we do it with the little $50, $60, $70 we get extra, of course you're going to do it with that $50, $60, $70,000 you get extra. And if you add 1 to 2 more zeros to that total, it's a no question, no brainer that you're going to do it. So simple as that. Just keep it in perspective. I know there's a lot of people who like to troll anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But it's definitely something that you want to at least keep in the back of your head, I would think, when it comes to other people's money. It's not yours, okay? So I want to talk about oversaturation. Oversaturation, when there's too much of a great thing. This kind of ties into a lot of what I want to be looking at for the rest of the podcast, at least for my topic or topics that I want to do. So here we go. When you have something that needs to be recognized and you have something that needs to be addressed or attended, in the beginning, nobody hears you, nobody pays attention. Not many people are not just listening, but not many people are hearing the message. But once that train picks up momentum and the right amount of people hear it, then it starts to gain attention, which is good. That's what you want. I think the problem is you get so many, it becomes corporatized. And what I mean by that is you get too many news stations and magazines and talking heads talking about the topic that it becomes trendy. It becomes like a big thing. I kind of feel when you get news and certain celebrities and social media that gets a hold of it, they just they just bombard you with it. They just throw it in your face and they just kind of leave it there, and you can't escape it. And everyone kind of becomes a topic. A prime example of that is sports talk. I know we were talking about sports in the last topic, but not a lot of people were watching ESPN. And then when ESPN broke things down when it comes to sports and scores and stats, and you hear these conversations with just like your average person, it's like they're not talking about anything from their experience. They're basically just regurgitating what they heard from television. So when it comes to things like Juneteenth that just passed yesterday, that's not getting celebrated. Not because it's not important to a lot of people, but it's not getting celebrated because everyone is exhausted from the BLM situation with the George Floyd incident. So with that, it's called exhaustion, right? You see it so much. And again, it's not one of those things where people don't care. It's one of those things where it was so much everywhere at one time, it forced people to turn it off. Because no matter where they went, even if they're trying to escape it, the point was to get it in people's faces so that way they could understand, which is fine. But they got a little too much, if that makes any sense to people, right? So now you have people who are rejecting anything that's for people of color, to say the least. Okay? They understand it's important, they get it's important, but the delivery has now become a little too much that people are starting to just turn off from it. And that's not what we want. We want people to understand it. We want people to accept it. We want people to acknowledge it. But I think what's happening is too many people are just getting bombarded with it. And they're actually just defending themselves and they're rejecting it, which is a bad thing. Which then it comes off very, very crass and it comes off as offensive. And then people take that the wrong way. So I feel when corporate America gets a hold of anything, in my opinion, they ruin it. They ruin a bad thing. I think, feel, and believe the reason why why they ruin so much is because a lot of the topics that they're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, they have no relation to. They don't understand it. They take no part in it of their daily lifestyle. So they don't know how to deliver it. They don't know how to express it. They don't know how to expand it. They don't know how to delegate it, for the most part. And it always baffled me that the people who are having these issues are always told these issues are not issues. We look at the what and we never look at the why, right? In Folsom, California, there's a petition right now. This is kind of a big thing out here, where if you drive from Citrus Heights area into Folsom off of Madison Avenue, a lot of people may know where that's at, you'll pass a bar, and it's called the Negro Bar. Now, when I first moved to Sacramento in 2001, I saw that bar, and it bugged me out, and I was like, damn, they do it like this out here. Somebody made the gesture saying, well, Negro is how you say black in Spanish. First of all, it's negro. Let's just do that. Let's understand the way to say it properly, right? Second, I want you to show me any Spanish speakers who are in that part of Folsom. I can almost guarantee you it's less than 5%. And 5% is being extremely generous, right? I do understand that a lot of racism and prejudice in today's world is going to be more blatant. It's going to be more in your face. It's going to be more daring, more bold, because you can hide behind an avatar. But racism before our time, in the 50s and 60s, it was just as blatant because you couldn't do anything about it. But a true racist is never going to admit that he or she is racist. A true racist or person who is pure prejudice, a bigot, they will have to be discovered. They will have to be discovered. Because a person who is a bigot, they can't afford for their prejudice to come and be exposed, because it would ruin everything that they're setting up. And I think what happens is we get the two terms, racist and prejudice, mix. Because racism has its own definition. It's a race actually having the ability and power to control one or other race's economics, living situations, financial situations, employment situations, so on and so forth. That's racism. Well, POCs don't have that power. We were never put in that position, and we never will be put in that position, because as long as those people have the upper hand, the ground is now fair. But you have to understand the symbolism and and just the subtleness of how it is, right? I was watching an episode of a clip from Golden Girls, and Don Cheadle was on the episode, and it was Blanche, and she was at this bar or this club, and she was hanging the Confederate flag. And the Confederate flag to her reminded her when she was a little girl, and how everyone got ballroom dancing, dressed up, and we had these fancy foods and these drinks and this great live band music, and everyone was just Southern hospitality and getting along and so on and so forth. And I grew up with people who support the Confederacy, right? And I've always asked them, why do you support the Confederacy? And they said because their father, their grandfather, their great-grandfather fought in the war. You know, they have like this family tradition, this family pride. And I never really dug more into it. I kind of just let it alone. Like, oh, okay, I get it. It's this family, historic connection, relation. I get it. This is back in high school. Well, in this episode, she kind of brought up a similar situation with Don Cheadle's character. And she says her meaning for the flag isn't the same as the other people's meaning. They use it in a derogatory way. That's not the same. The confusion is, how do you differentiate good, great memory from horrible, terrible history? How do you take something that was once meant to degrade and separate and divide, and now say, oh, this means this? So when you get oversaturation, going back to that, you get this bombarding of division. You get this bombarding of people going at people because it's frustrating and it stirs the pot, if you will. A great thing can become a horrible idea if it's not handled properly. And this is kind of where the context comes from. Sad part is a lot of our news, CNN, a lot of our news, Fox News, it's governed towards political purposes now. It's not necessarily giving us informed news. It's giving us informed news to kind of counterpunch the other political party, if you will. But then you also got, like I said, the subtle means of it, how the subtle means of bigotry, because it can mean exactly what you mean, but it's displayed in a way where it doesn't come off like that. And it kind of makes you look sensitive. When in actuality, that's exactly what it meant. You just don't perceive it that way. It's literally being next to a skinhead with swastikas on his shirt, and you tell that person, dude, he's not like that. He's changed. He's just wearing that shirt because it was the only clean shirt he had. And the person wearing the shirt isn't saying anything to support or refute what the other person's saying. So it's kind of making you look like that's exactly what he's wearing the shirt for, but he's using you to defend it for him. So he doesn't have to say anything. So he can always sit back and say, well, I never said he was right. I never said he was wrong. I didn't say anything. He spoke for me. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of people is they're taking these situations, they're turning them around to make it seem as if, and we all know what the term is, it's called gaslighting, right? They're gaslighting you. And a lot of folks will get pissed at you when you don't believe their lie. They know what it is, but they want you to believe what they're telling you so you can just leave them the fuck alone. And when that does not happen, they get angry. Back from that tangent of the bar in Folsom that's officially getting his name changed, you have oversaturation, because now when people start bringing up issues that need to be addressed or questions that need to be answered, people are super sensitive because it's just in your face. Is that good? Is that bad? I think it's a little too late, because with all the saturation of everything, this goes right into my next topic. And the next topic is people who cry wolf. That's the problem. That's a huge problem in communities. You have people who cry wolf. You have people who would do a crime, get caught doing that crime, and the moment they're getting arrested for the crime that they got caught doing, they want to pull out their race card. If anyone has seen the Paul Rudd movie, and I can't think of my man's name in real life, it's right on the tip of my tongue, but he plays Stifler in American Pie. The movie Role Models, right? The little kid Kenny, he kicks over this tent and he stomps on it. And Paul Rudd is like, "Hey, Kenny, cut it out. I'll fight a kid. I have no problem. I will hit a kid in the face," or something like that. And the kid was like, "What? You think I'm black? Is why I did it?" And he's like, "No, because you did it. Is why I think you did it." I've always laughed at that joke because it's so real. Because some of us will always pull the race card on shit that we legitimately did. Now, with that said, what that does is whenever there is somebody that's going through a racial profile, you ruin it for that person that's actually going through a racial profile. That's the problem. That's the problem. When you call wolf and there's nothing there, the village won't hear you when an actual wolf arrives. Then everyone's in danger. Because now, when the situation is televised, all people are going to think is, you always say that. Even if it's true, because you bullshitted on these situations over here, people are now going to become numb to your cry for help. That's the problem. And I'm not just talking about quote unquote white America. I'm talking about our own. We have this issue where some things aren't racially motivated. Some things are just, we fuck up. And we kind of pull that card to feel we can get out of the situation. Like I said, and the bad part about it is when you do get a situation where someone is racially profiled, even we don't believe it. As much as we look at it and say, yes, we look at your track record. And we say, that's not what happened. Right? Same thing with women when it comes to sexual assault. You can't cry wolf, man. Because when there's a woman in a situation where she is legitimately in help, the world's not listening to her because they group her in the same situation. They group her in that same category, right? As my palm-colored American brothers and sisters would say, when you guys create and instigate a racial situation and a reaction is done, that person didn't assault you. There was a situation where this guy was yelling at this woman in a parking lot. Brother walks up to kind of de-escalate the situation because this guy was really animated with this female. Older lady too. All three people kind of older. And the white guy punched the black guy like in the stomach. And the black guy kind of, reached for his stomach and he socked the guy right in the face. The guy stumbled back. He did a jump back. He held his face. And he turned around, told everyone he was assaulted. Right? There was a situation where some guy kept yelling at this one guy, at a white guy yelling at a black guy. And the black guy kept moving on the bus. He kept moving. He kept trying to get away from the guy. He was just trying to be left alone. He was just trying to and you can tell he was being provoked, intentionally being provoked. And the guy said that magical word, that magical 6-letter word. And my dude straight, I didn't even see his feet. He just flew from the front of the bus to the middle. And all you hear is, and him walk away. The palm-colored American sat there, leaking, called the cops. I was assaulted. And I think what happens is people feel the second kid always gets in trouble, right? You get no help. Look what happened with the Mike Tyson situation, right? That was on that airplane. People, stop crying wolf. If you want someone to believe you, make sure that everything you've done is copacetic, right? Everything you've done is copacetic. You've done everything you could to avoid a situation, but yet this situation occurred and you are legit the victim. People will get A. Because you never know, also, you could be interrupting somebody's karma, right? Make sure whatever it is that you do, your hands are as clean as possible of any wrongdoing. So the oversaturation, back to that topic. I know it seems like I'm going all over the place, and I'm not if you're following along. The oversaturation comes from the small group of people who are crying wolf because we give them the reason to broadcast this to people and create this kind of conversation, this topic, or this division. It's really simple. And a lot of folks need to put themselves in the situation of both people if you can and look at it. And you'll have a clearer understanding of what it is. I know this is not going to be something that a lot of people may even care to consider, but it's a very, very crucial, a very, very important thing that people need to pay attention to. Because if you don't, we'll never get past it. We just won't. And so I think, feel, and believe they take what the small minority, they take that noise right there, and they, excuse me, and they broadcast that and say, this is what's going on. And and they sit back and just watch everybody have at it. And so to me, it ties right into learning something new about Black history. We talk about Juneteenth because that just happened yesterday. And when it comes to learning about Black history, nobody wants to hear it. And I feel it's because they have this belief that they've heard enough. And I don't think that's the case. I think what it is, they're just fatigued from it. Now keep in mind, all these years, we've been learning American history. But I think as time goes on, we get to the point of the generation that created the division, the main problem in our country. We're getting to the point now where we're going to see these people in the history books. We're no longer to the point where we're seeing the people who are now deceased and no longer with us. We're now looking at some of y'all grandparents, and we might start seeing pictures of them surface during the times of segregation, during the times of the civil rights, during the time of the Montgomery bus boycott. We might start seeing them in pictures of lynching and my grandfather getting hosed. And oh my gosh, I had his name like written down. I can't find it. There was a white gentleman who marched with Martin Luther King, and they beat this man because he was for unity. He was for, for everybody getting along. And I believe he did the bus boycott with them. I gotta find my notes on that guy. But you're gonna start finding pictures of the people who beat him, who abused him in support of my grandparents. So those people who are responsible, they're now going to be coming up in the next generation to learn about history 60 years ago. You see what I'm saying? So that's where you get CRT in place. It's not so much about making white kids feel bad or guilty about being white kids. It's more about white kids learning that Nana and Papa, wait, is this you right here with the rock over the little girl? They're going to see pictures of that and start asking questions. And these people don't want to have to deal with that. Let's be honest. Because they have no problem in bringing up somebody of color's criminal background. But when it comes to their prestigious, squeaky clean history, they want to keep it that way. Okay. So that's not how this works. But this is exactly how they're trying to make it work. Okay, this is exactly how they're trying to make it work. So it's when you are the one who's creating the problem, it's hard for you to become the victim. It's extremely difficult to become the victim. And so I just have this feeling, man, that's why a lot of this history is getting changed, because the people who will play the biggest victims in the world, well, a lot of light's about to get shined on them, and so they don't really like that. They don't like that part, right? So, it's very a little frustration, like I said, when it comes to people crying wolf, right? It just if you make sure that everything's on the up and up as possible, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Anyway, like I said, with Juneteenth, a lot of folks, we never, as a country, learned about this history. We just, for whatever reason, like I said, we learned everything about every other part of American history, and if it's not slavery, Martin Luther King or Malcolm X, for the most part, it's not in the curriculum. And you have to ask yourself, why? There's a certain curriculum that teachers are allowed to teach. And if they go off that curriculum, they can lose their credential. It doesn't matter what it is. And America, in some sort, is truly based on an illusion. It's based on an illusion of what this country stands for. I know people want to sit back and say, this is the best country in the world. Well, it is, but what are you comparing it to? Or are you comparing that to a country that has a dictator that tells people how many kids they're allowed to have in their household? Or are you determining that with a country that tells its citizens what it can and cannot do for religious purposes? Is it one where they live by the rules of one man who determines what they watch, who determines what they hear, and any other source outside of the country that may possibly contradict that, they are to have that service eliminated, terminated, or canceled? Sure, it is. Yeah, but I think the question we should be asking is, are we the best country because we treat everyone better than they're being treated? Or are we the best country because the bar to the standard is just fucking lower than everybody else? I mean, think about that, right? It's the American dream. The late comedian George Carlin even explained why it's American dream, because you have to be asleep in order to see it. The moment you wake up, they try to terminate you, right? That's what that is. And you always are pursuing this dream. When does it ever become a reality? And if it is a reality, at what cost? That's the thing, right? So with the Juneteenth becoming a history now, a lot of people have a problem with that. Again, it goes back to the crying wolf people, the small percentage, very small percentage of people who cry wolf are getting all the exposure, and that's being oversaturated in people's faces. A lot of the folks that are being oversaturated with this information, they have no contact, they have no relation, they have no type of connection, anything to people who look like the people they see on television. So they use a lot of those resources and a lot of their information from television, from internet, from chat boxes, right? And so the information that they see right there, they use that to represent whatever it is that they use to represent in their mind. And that's what they use to judge. We all have done that. We read information about something, processed it, and that's what we use to engage and to encounter whatever it is that you saw on the internet. It's human. That's what we do, right? Especially if we don't have any experience near it, next to it, or by it. So again, whenever it comes to something about the advancement of POCs, this is the reason why so many folks have an issue with it. In addition to some of them just downright bigots and they don't care. And they feel threatened because they think that their history is getting wiped out. And that, to me, that's gotta be amazing. That's gotta be an amazing feeling for a person to know for the past 5 centuries, anything and everything has been about you and nobody else. Primarily you. Right? You can't stand Mexicans, but you love Cinco de Mayo. You can't stand Black people, but yet your favorite athlete, musician, and actor, you you don't like, whoever you don't like, but at the same time you like their culture. And whenever you see something that's encouraging, they want that off their television. I just don't understand the hypocrisy, and I don't think I ever will understand the hypocrisy, but I think a lot of the backlash comes from the oversaturation. And I feel that a lot of us as people, what we should do is, and I've said this in the first few episodes of my podcast, we should definitely, man, go out, engage in the communities and create something. People love food, right? So, I don't know, grab some people, create potlucks, go to the park and just chit chat, hand people plates, man, free plates to eat, and they can just sit back, talk, and read. If your children are engaged with children of different colors and different races, that's a beautiful thing. That's a start. That way they learn how to interact. And parents, listen, man, I think I said this a few episodes before, but there's a difference between, some of my palm-colored Americans, there's a difference when you have POCs over at your home versus you going to their home. I can almost guarantee you going to their neighborhood has a bigger gesture than it is for you welcoming them into your home. Because it almost lets them know Not that anyone needs your approval, not that anyone needs your pity, not that anyone needs you to vouch or to accreditate or to anything like that. But it does give a feeling of I'm willing to see you. I'm willing to come to you as much as you're willing to come to me. Gas prices are high, traffic is a bitch. You know, I have no problem coming here, just like you have no problem coming to me. But everything is good. I think also, kind of like in the movie Remember the Titans, you get to the point where you see what they live, which puts you in a different perspective of, man, it's like this here, right? And it also lets their children know not all white people are afraid of the hood. Because just like anything else, the moment someone smells fear, they're going to be on you, right? And it also kind of builds a barrier to where both children look out for one another, right? If, this white kid goes to this black kid's house and the white kid starts to get picked on, the black kid's going to defend them because this is my friend. They're not bothering you. They're cool with me, so they shouldn't bother you. So when the black kid comes to the white kid's house and they get harassed, the same treatment will follow because it's like we look out for each other. We're friends. And I think that's very, very important. Same thing when the parents come. Because like I said in my last episode or 2 episodes ago, kids bully because they see adults bully. So when they see an adult looking out for another adult that's getting picked on by adults, they just our parents are friends and they're not going to let anyone bother their friend. That's a very good lesson for the kids to see. Also, it's one of those things, kind of a off topic, but it goes back to the crying wolf situation. There are a lot of people out there who will provoke a situation to get you to react a certain way, and I think what happens, and I've seen this myself here in Sacramento, California. Right, you have a couple different neighborhoods. You have Del Paso Heights. You have North Highlands. You have Oak Park. You got South Sac, just to name a couple. Right. Okay, well then you have East Sac, and then you have Folsom, and then you have E.I.T.H., and then you got Roseville. I can tell you right now from driving, ladies and gentlemen, there is a lot more police activity in the first group of neighborhoods that I named than the second group of neighborhoods that I named. The second group, do they have police there? Sure. But do you see them as frequent? No, not at all. And I can't think of anybody that I know who is from the second group who has aggressively been followed by law enforcement just because, I don't know, fill in the blank of reasons why. So when it comes to the crying wolf thing, make sure that when you feel that this person is a threat to you, that they're an actual threat. Because they may not be a threat. They may just be annoyed the fact that you followed them for 3 miles, switched lanes with them, then started to pass them up and looked at them to let them know that you were watching them, which makes no damn sense of why you're watching them, because they didn't do anything wrong. It's very interesting. But like I said, when it comes to the oversaturation, they use a small number of people, and bottom line is, what we got to do as a people is we got to stop giving people reasons to do the dumb shit, to do the hate, to do the division, to do the mockery, to do the provoking, to do all that fun stuff. Next Friday, podcast, same spot. Holla.
Listening to the E.I.T.H.R podcast with your host, E.I.T.H.R.